Okay, we're back. I had a technical fuck up. My computer basically took a shit the first time. So, what are we watching today? This is or he was back in 2015. This kind of went over my head. Professor Amir Khatroni, who was an academic at the University Center of Ariel, which is actually in the West Bank, and he's considered one of the worst examples of leftist snobbery in the country over there. They just pull the chat out to see if anybody's tuning in. I know somebody told me before. John Sislowski, thank you. You didn't miss shit. It was all my, perfect timing. Reven Star Killer, welcome back. Or should I say, benvindo de volta? I probably said something wrong there. J-Man Truth Seeker says, yeah, I need to go invest in a new computer myself. Arjun is here, so is J-Man Truth Seeker. So we're going to do something a little difficult. This could turn out to be a decent stream, or it could turn out to be a really shitty one, because I'm going to have to freely translate a clip that I couldn't find any subtitles for about Professor Khatroni and the elections a few years ago. So how about we just get to it? So essentially, to set the scene, this was in 2015, and Benjamin Netanyahu just won his election for, I guess it would be his third term in office. I think he won once in 2009, and then another time in 2013 or something, and then again in 2015. The way it works there is you have to keep a coalition together. If you don't, then the government gets dissolved. Also, he served another term in the 90s, so technically he's now serving his fourth term as prime minister. So that's to set the scene, and here we go.
כן, עוד עניין אחד בעניינים שאנחנו כבר מתעסקים איתם בימים האחרונים וגם הבוקר, הפעם פרופסור אמיר חצרוני בהתבטאות נוספת שמעוררת סערה. הוא מאשים את המזרחים בתוצאות הבחירות. אנחנו רואים לך בוקר טוב, פרופסור אמיר חצרוני, וגם...
So there's going to be a lot of starts and stops, and I'm hoping this doesn't take like 5 hours, but they're basically saying good morning. We have this controversial expression of an opinion by Professor Amir Khatroni, basically blaming Orientals. That's what it said in Hebrew. Orientals means anybody who is basically from the Arab countries, any of the Jews from the Arab countries. So that would include Moroccans, it would include Yemenites, it would include Iraqis like my mom, it would include, I don't know, Persians, Turks. Sometimes I think it even includes the small community of Bulgarian Jews, some of the Greeks as well, because they were traditionally the Sephardic tradition is considered the Oriental Jews, the Mizrahi Jews. So he basically blames them for electing Benjamin Netanyahu. And to be clear, when I lived there, I had the right to vote. I never voted for him. In fact, I don't think I ever got a chance to vote for him. He wasn't running in elections there. I would vote for a party that was like one of the more religious parties, kind of because there is no true social conservative party over there. I think nowadays, because my views have changed, I might not even have a party I would want to vote for. So let's keep going.
לך יש את התקשורת אמיר בוזגלו. אתה רוצה להתחיל במה שכתבת? אתה רוצה שאני...
So this is Amir Khatroni over here, and this is Amira Buzaglo. Buzaglo is a very, very common Moroccan name, and she's kind of a reality TV star. She's not exactly the freshest looking kitten, but you can see this is one of the few clips where I think like she puts this idiot in his place. So here we go.
אני אקריא את מה שכתבת?
אתה יכול להקריא, אני לא חושב שאני מאשים את המזרחים בשום דבר.
תן לי להקריא.
אז תן לי...
So the host asks, can I read what you wrote? We're only 27 seconds in. This is going to suck. So the host says, can I read what you wrote? I mean, and he says, of course you can read it, but I don't blame the Orientals for everything. And then you actually hear what he says.
אולי בטונים שלי יכול להיות שזה יישמע יותר נעים. אני אנסה לעשות לזה לחן.
She says, maybe this will sound better if I read it. The woman.
למה זה קורה בכל בחירות? האשמה כמובן בסבא של יריב בן אליעזר ובחוק השבות. אם לא היינו פותחים את הרגליים ללא סלקציה לכל מיני יהודים, וספק יהודים וחצי יהודים ממדינות ליגה ג' שהגורם המאחד אותם הוא לנשק מאות, לאכול חומוס, לשתות בורש, לקחת קצבאות ולקבל אורגזמה מלריב עם העולם. בוז'י היה לוקח את הבחירות בהליכה. אמנם בלי העולים הערבים היו מקבלים יותר מנדטים, אבל עדיף מיעוט גדול של אחמד טיבי על רוב של מירי רגב. השמאל...
Okay, so I can try to read this. And I didn't understand that. And it says, why does this happen every elections? The blame going to the grandfather of Yariv ben Eliezer. Yariv ben Eliezer is I think is an Iraqi Jew. And the and the law of return. The law of return in Israel is the one that entitles anyone who is a Jew, you know, by either birth or has converted to Judaism. So your mother either your mother has to be Jewish, and that's by Jewish law, or you convert to Judaism. Then you have the legal right to move to Israel. It's a law. You can disagree with the law. I'm just telling you what the law says. If we did not open our legs without selectia. Selectia means is the term they used in. He uses the loaded term of selectia, which was used by the Germans in the concentration camps to determine who lives and who dies. If we didn't open our legs without choosing all the different types of Jews and the quasi Jews and the half Jews from the class C countries, and that the only thing that unites them is that they kiss charms, okay? Because in the Kabbalah there is a such thing as certain charms. For those of you who don't know about the Jewish religion, Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism. So there are certain charms that people use for it, and I don't really know that much about it, so don't ask me my opinion about it, because I'm probably just as ignorant as you are, except for knowing what it is. So the only thing that unites them is kissing the Kabbalah charms. So that's like a necklace or something, or a red thread. To eat hummus, to drink borscht, that's attacking the Russian Jews. To take welfare, and to get an orgasm from fighting with the world. Bougie, the name of Bibi's opponent in that election, Benjamin Netanyahoo's nickname is Bibi, and his opponent's name is Isaac Herzog, and his nickname is Bougie. So he would have taken the elections easily, like at a leisurely pace, Bahalicha. So then he keeps going on. It says the left of Israel is paying the Zionist price, and nobody except for the professor, meaning himself, and not even Gideon Levy, who's one of the far left people in Israel, works for Haaretz, dares to say this. So this person is basically saying, and the other thing he says is that it's better to have a big minority of Ahmad Tibi. Ahmad Tibi is a very anti-Jewish, he's an Arab parliamentarian over in Israel who's very anti-Israel. So he's a parliamentarian who is in the Israeli parliament, advocates for the destruction of Israel. So he says it's better to have more of him than a majority of Miri Regev. Miri Regev is I think she's, I'm not sure. I think she is a Moroccan Jew who's a member of the Likud party. So basically he's saying it's better to have more and more Arabs leading the country than it is to have Jews from Arab countries. Let me see what the chat's saying. I hope you guys aren't like losing interest in this. What the fuck? How does he keep getting elected? Who votes for this guy? Isn't Israel mostly so? No, he's not been elected. So, Perseus Gold, welcome. I'll answer your question first in a second. I think Benjamin Netanyahu keeps getting elected for his speaking voice. Some people say that. Um, is it controversial to blame both sides? That's Italian land. Deal with it. I don't think it's controversial. I think it's a fair observation. Sometimes, you know, you don't have to. Yeah, and Lennon McCarthy, who comments often, he has a fair thing. I mean, there's blame to be attributed to both sides. You don't even have to take a side. You can not like both sides. Sislowski says you have land and cannot maintain domain over it. It ain't yours anymore. Not sure what he meant. Pinochet, what's the topic of the day? Arjun Sinha says it right. So it's a completely meaningless term that's only used to identify outgroups. Yes. Well, not exactly. So I'm going to answer some questions, and we might not get through the whole thing. So I'm sorry, but this is a very indicative clip that unfortunately I don't have English subtitles for. So I'm going to have to free translate it. It's a problem. And there's even a bigger lack of clarity about it. So when you're talking about the Jews, some people identify it as a faith, as I do, and some people identify it as a nationality. And in his case, in the case of Professor Hetzroni, that's this guy, he identifies it more as a culture and a nationality and everything. So you have, on the one hand, the Jews who lived in Western Europe and Eastern Europe. Those are called the Ashkenaz Jews. The Jews that lived in other countries, such as Iraq or such as Iran, which is my mom came from Iraq, or from northern Africa, those are often grouped together as the Sephardic Jews. But what people don't know is that the Yemenite Jews are not actually Sephardic, because there's a huge customs difference between the Yemenite and the Iraqi Jews, especially when you open up a prayer book. That's the easiest way to know. The actual composition of the prayer book, the order of the prayers, and even the melodies of the different hymns. That's the biggest difference. It's the biggest difference there is, and that's why there's such a difference. And that's why I continue to look at it as a religious issue, and other people look at it as an ethnic issue. Also, you have to throw in, there's also a lot of Jews from parts of the world like China and Iran, Iran too, but India, Ethiopia as well, that don't fit into either category, just like the Yemenites. So it's a broad generalization. And he takes a shot at the Russian Jews, who are majority Ashkenaz. They're majority European. So this is a person who's deeply bigoted towards religious and Oriental Jews as well as Russians. And he's on the left. They aren't really Israel. Well, John Sislowski, that's a big debate too. Some people are also, and I take issue with that, because a lot of my best friends living there were the Russians. This should be good, GMN Truth Seeker. Don't blow too much cash on a new computer. So Perseus Gold, yeah, the Khazars who became the Eastern European Jewish population were Central Asian and converted to avoid choosing between Christianity and Islam as a border state. That's actually a major myth, because to believe that, you would have to discount the fact that many of the Ashkenaz Jews came from Spain, and they migrated there after the Spanish Inquisition. So it has nothing to do with the Khazars. That's one of the biggest jokes, is that me and this friend of mine, we think of the Khazar thing as you know, the N word. So, you know, when I greet him, I say, "What's up, my Khazar?" Because it's one of the most nonsensical theories. It was put forward by one person. His name is Shlomo Sand, as an explanation for it, but it doesn't have any substantiation behind it. In fact, you could probably make the case that there is more genetic connection between Italians and the Ashkenaz Jews than you can between a lot of these Central Asians and the Ashkenaz Jews. Did you see the news about the Iranian spy in the Israeli parliament? Not the latest one. If that's, I don't know. Is there a new one? Borscht is great. I fucking hate it. So this Jewish hippie, we'll just call him a hippie, is advocating for a Jewish test of, no, you'll see what he's talking about. How did it gain so much traction? Well, you know what, Perseus, how about, I've never had you on. If you want to come on, we can do a whole stream about the Khazar theory, because that's not really the focus today, but if you want, you can email me. Was he some tenured professor on some important school? No, he was let me see here. Shlomo Sand. So yeah, he was a former professor at Tel Aviv University. So if this was such a big, first of all, he has a book called How I Ceased to Be a Jew, which is kind of I mean, what? Okay, so if he is that, how did the Jews keep him tenured at their own university at Tel Aviv? Because I've even read textbooks that make this claim. So you're going to have to hold off. We'll do a separate stream on that because we're focusing on something else today. But yeah, you can email me. By the way, I have a new email. I'll put it in the chat. It is. This is for all show-related business. So that's chefleopardyt@gmail.com. So if you want to pose an idea or a request to be on the show, that's the new show email. Anyway, I'm going to minimize the chat for now, and we're going to keep going.
הישראלי משלם את מחיר הציונות, ואף אחד חוץ מהפרופסור לא שמעז לומר את זה. עכשיו, את זה כתבת ב-18 לחודש, משהו שהיית רוצה לשכתב, משהו שאתה חושב שעשית יותר מדי, פחות מדי, מבין את
So she asks him, and you can see this shit-eating. I mean, he's trying to suppress a smile here. Do you think you should take something back? Do you think you should change something you said? And he's just dying to get at her.
שערה בכלל?
קודם כל, אני חושב שאת מקיימת את זה בצורה מקסימה, ובהחלט הייתי שוקל להעביר אותך כחלטורה לעשות את ווייז, אבל גופם של דברים.
So he says, oh, I think that you represented it excellently, and I'd like to have you as my spokeswoman.
הרי נאמר שם גם על בורשט, ונאמר שם גם על אנשים שהם לחלוטין ממוצא מזרחי, אז ככה שאני ממש לא רואה פה איזושהי אמירה אנטי-מזרחית, יש פה כן אמירה לגיטימית לחלוטין.
So he's saying, well, because I threw in the whole Borscht thing, which is against Russians, it's not exactly an anti-Mizrahi, an anti-Oriental saying, because there's something completely legitimate about what I'm saying, and you know they pounce on this. Hold on.
על חוק השבות, לגיטימית לחלוטין על ציונות, אני יודע שהיא אמירה.
He's saying this is a completely legitimate take on the law of return and on Zionism, and he's saying this because he is butthurt over the election of Netanyahu, over one of the weakest candidates. To tell you the truth, the person who was running against Netanyahu was pretty much the soy candidate. His name was Isaac Herzog, and you can see him here. And you know, it's pointless to show clips of him because I'd have to translate those too. And the thing is that I was looking for a better clip of this where I could just show you the subtitles, but there wasn't any. So I guess you're just gonna have to trust me, which sucks for you guys. But here we go. Let's keep going.
אשר מיעוט הבחירות אמרו את זה, ואני מכבד כמובן את רצון העם.
He says, I realize this and I respect the will of the people.
אבל אתה יודע, זכותי לומר שלא בא לי שיביאו לפה אנשים על בסיס אתני בגלל, אגב, לטעמי, אם את מדברת על גזענות, אם מדברים על גזענות, זו גזענות, חוק השבות, אין חוק.
So he starts to say, but it's my right to say that because of this law, the law of return, which I think is extremely racist, that it's ruined my country, basically. Now, think about it that way. He is saying that bringing non-European or Russian immigrants is a racist policy, even though you're talking about a religious affiliation. I realize in many cases a lot of the Russian Israelis are not actually, they're not actually legally Jewish by the Jewish law. And I'm not going to get into that topic there because this isn't what he's talking about. This is a person who's completely secular. In fact, he wrote another article this year saying, or no, this is in April 2015. Why does the Ministry of Interior keep me Jewish against my will? So write down the name of a religious cult that lists people as followers without asking for their consent and then forbids them to be excluded. Most likely you did not write Judaism, but this is exactly what you should have written. I think that it is possible nowadays to get delisted as you can have your identity cards over there. Cut your religion out. You can write nothing, or you can write something else. I think it's possible now. I'm not going to say it's the easiest thing because I've never tried it and I've heard that it's a little difficult, but that's the law over there, and I'm not going to wage a major campaign on it. You have Jeffrey Allen Johnson is here. Why is this? Yeah, I have to put it on live chat, but for some reason, even on live chat, it does stuff. Yeah, so Perseus Gold, you can send me a message. We can deal with the Khazar theory. Arjun says, maybe leftist, but what group of Jews does Hetzroni himself belong to? He's attacked almost all Jews. I've seen Ashkenazi Jews tend to, well, he is Ashkenazi. You'll see that. What's going on? Okay.
חוק גזעני יותר מחוק השבות, כי חוק השבות בא ואומר שאם אתה גר לך בסיביר, או בקזבלנקה, או באתיופיה, או בקזחסטן, או בניו זילנד, והתכונה היחידה שיש לך זה סבתא יהודייה, אז אתה יכול לבוא לפה.
So he said that pretty clearly, that the law of return entitles somebody who was born in Siberia, Ethiopia, Australia, New Zealand, wherever, it entitles you to return to Israel. On the basis of having a Jewish grandmother alone. That's not true. It's true in the sense that those people are allowed to do it, but also somebody who has converted. Let's say you're somebody from, Sweden, and you converted to Judaism. You are allowed to return under the law of return. Also, not mentioned is that people who are not Jewish also have a process to become citizens. It's not the same process. On that basis, you could claim religious discrimination, and then you would have a basis to complain. I think people who don't believe if people want to object based on religious discrimination, I think you have, a more fair argument. Okay, I'm not somebody to tell people to swallow the policies of a country that they don't agree with and just accept it. I just like to hold people consistent, because when you claim it's racism, there is no racial argument here, because you're having the actual law itself is based on a religious definition. It's not based on a racial. Let's say somebody who was, Egyptian converted to Judaism, they could move there. Let's say somebody was, so the racial issue is irrelevant. You can't convert to Egyptian. You can't convert to Black American, despite what Rachel Dolezal will tell you. There's no such conversion process. But in the Jewish religion, just like in the Catholic religion, by the way, there's a process of conversion into the faith. So they neglect that all. And the reason they do that is because they don't believe that religion is relevant at all. You can see that in his other article, the op-ed over on the other side. I haven't included. I'll put that in the description later. You can remind me. This guy's name is Amir Hetzroni, by the way. So let's keep going.
אני, לטעמי, ודעתי האישית בלבד ואידאה לגיטימית, באה ואומרת שזה לא נכון.
למה אתה צריך להגיד על כל משפט שלך שזה דעה לגיטימית, אם אתה כל כך משוכנע, ולמה אתה צריך לעשות?
So this guy goes after him. He's like, why do you have to keep insisting that it's a legitimate view why are you so insecure about that? You keep having to say, oh, it's a legitimate view. Then why do you have to keep insisting that it's illegitimate? That it's legitimate? Why are you so defensive about this?
כי מנסים לעשות כדי לגיטימציה, תשמע.
לא, אני חושב שזה פשוט, תשמע, אני אומר את דעתי לא יותר טובה משלך, אני פשוט חושב שזה אוסף של הבלים, מה שכתבת שמה.
So he says, look, I don't think your view is, this is the host over here. I don't know what his name is. Let's call him, Ben Shapiro's actual dad. I don't know. He looks a little like him. Who else does he look like? Somebody else come up with a nickname for him. But this is the host, and he says, look, your view isn't any more legitimate than mine, but I just think you have a huge collection of abominations in there. So let's keep going.
אני נורא שמח שהוא לא מייצג אותי, באמת אני אומר את זה, משום שכשסבא וסבתא שלי באו לפה, אף אחד לא...
So he says, and I'm very happy that this doesn't represent me, because my grandparents came here as well.
בחר אותם, הם לא היו יותר טובים או פחות טובים, ואני סלח לי על העניין הזה, אבל אתה פה...
השאלה, קודם כל, מי שמך להחליט מי הוא ישראלי יותר טוב ומי הוא ישראלי פחות טוב?
So this is Buzaglo, who honestly looks like Bowser from Super Mario, but she pretty much beats the fuck out of him in this debate, because she says, well, who appointed you, a professor, to decide which is the better Jew or the less better or the less good Jew, the better or the lesser Jew?
הדבר השני זה שכולם יודעים שאתה פרובוקטור, שנהנה מכל סטאט, בניגוד לך גברת בוזגלו.
So she says the other thing is that everybody knows that you're a provocateur. You like writing provocations, and you love just to feed a lot of controversies. Now, that's a pretty weird piece of cleavage over there, if we can hover over that. So it kind of distracts me through the rest of this interview. So I might have to rewind a couple times, just because it's not even good looking. It just looks very strange. Am I the only person who thinks so? Let me see the chat. I want to make trolling great again. It's very interesting to see just how much a diaspora group can diverge to the point they practically aren't an in-group anymore. I don't know what you mean. There's a lot of scope of there's a lot of scope for misuse of the right of return. There are at least a few loopholes prima facie. Well, I mean, I'm just telling you what it is. I'm not telling you whether it's good or not. Quite literally, just left the gun shop range, got the wifey a new Walther 380 to go along with her 1943 Walther P91. We don't plan on being ironies. Yeah, I think couples especially, I think it's a good idea for them to train with guns, train in self-defense. I personally think that martial arts are just as important as owning firearms. That's my opinion. I think this whole firearms thing is over-focused on. Just as an aside, I think this is kind of a distraction, so thanks, Jeff, for distracting me. I can't stop thinking about how Germany is on the brink of awakening today. Yes, there was a stream about that yesterday. Picture is too small on my screen. Okay, yeah. Sorry. The full video is in the chat, is in the description. So, let's keep going. So he's attacking her because she was a reality star. I think she was on Big Brother or something. I don't know. I don't even watch Israeli TV. So she was on some reality show, and he's saying, oh, you get to call me a provocateur, even though your whole thing was that you were on TV looking for, a new boyfriend or something.
אתה רוצה לריב איתי על החיים האישיים שלי? בוא נריב, אבל בוא נדבר על למה אישו אותך.
So she says, oh, you're going to fight with me about my personal life?
הדעות שלי אין לי בעיה. בוא נדבר על הדעות שלי. לא, כי אתה פרובוקטור, שכל מה שיש לך להגיד זה אמירות גזעניות, וכל התארים שלך פאג.
So she says, you're just a provocateur. All you have to say is racist stuff. And then he gets all objective. I hate the people with their haircut. This type of person is ubiquitous over there. Why am I still having to unhide these? Boob gap. Yeah, that was a good theory.
מראים על...
רגע, קודם כל אנחנו מנהלים את הדיון.
אנחנו לא נשמע שום דבר.
כל מי שבבית עכשיו יעשה את הדבר הפשוט וזה או לסגור את הטלוויזיה או להחליט. שנייה.
So the guy stops the whole thing. He's like, everybody at home would probably just turn off the TV right now because they can't understand shit.
אז תגידו לפרופסור אמיר חצרוני שייתן גם לי להתבטא.
שנייה, רק 4 אוקטבות למטה, טיפה, בבקשה.
אמירה בוזגלו, מה חשבת שראית את הפוסט הזה?
כשאני קוראת את הדברים האלה, קודם כל קראתי בימים האחרונים הרבה פוסטים שהם גזענים, או אנשים שמביעים כאב, או גם...
So she said, when I read this, I've read a lot of posts in the past few days. So this was a Facebook post. They were talking about Hetzroni's racist Facebook post. And she says, I've read a lot of posts of people who are talking about their pain and how bad they feel about the election.
גם אני, אגב, כתבתי פוסט שבו אני אומרת שבאמת מאוד מבאס, גם אני בחרתי בשמאל, ומה לעשות, זה לא קרה, אבל ניסיתי...
So she says, even I wrote a post where it really is depressing. I voted for the left, that's what she says. And what are you going to do? It sucks because they lost, as they always do. And she starts to explain why they lost.
באמת, להבדיל מפוסטים כאלה שרק יורים כנגד אוכלוסיות שלמות פה, מי הוא ישראלי יותר טוב ומי הוא ישראלי פחות טוב, ניסיתי באמת לדבר על השורשיות, על ההצבעה שהיא אמוציונלית, על למה אנחנו מגיעים למצב כזה שדווקא אזורי פריפריה, שהשמאל אמור...
So she says, instead of going to this blind alley where Hetzroni does, what he did, essentially she explained it this way. Okay, so I can't do it word for word because, I'm not fast enough on my heels. But she's essentially saying, instead of going after specific sectors of the population for who they voted for or who they didn't vote for, he should focus on the fact that people are voting in terms of their roots. Ethnically, the Oriental Jews, they vote for the right more often. And she says it would be more productive to focus on why it is that these people vote for a party that doesn't look after the social interests of their demographic group. People who are poorer, why do they vote for a party that is very, very, capitalistic or whatever?
דווקא לדאוג להם. ולא הימין שהוא כל כך קפיטליסטי במהותו, שהוא בשתיים וחצי קדנציות לא דאג להם, להפך. מה שקורה...
So she's saying, why do they always... The real answer is to analyze why they voted for a right wing that in 2 terms hasn't looked after them in terms of their economic needs.
קורה זה שבמקום שאנחנו נסתכל כחברה במבט עמוק איך אנחנו מגיעים למצב כזה שאנחנו משנים שלטון ובאמת אנשים בוחרים במה שאמור להטיב איתם ובאמת לדאוג לצרכים שלהם, ומה שקורה זה שבמקום שאנחנו נסתכל במבט הזה ונגיד רגע, אולי באמת השמאל צריך לעשות חושבים, אולי השמאל נתפס באמת כאליטיסטי, כזחוח, כלא מדבר לעם, כלא נגיש, וללכת מהמקום הזה ולא לנסות לשפוט, כי מה שקורה, כל הזמן את רואה בפייסבוק גידופים איזה ישראלים יותר טובים, וזה אנחנו נגד הם. ולמה בכלל להגיע למצב כזה שאנחנו מדברים על 2 קצוות מתרס? אנחנו מנסים כאילו לדבר איך אנחנו משתפרים כחברה, ומה שאנחנו עושים זה שאנחנו בתוך עצמנו אוכלים אחד את השני.
So what she said there, she said a lot, but I'll summarize it. She says that instead, people should analyze what's wrong with the left. Maybe the left is, it's elitist, it's inapproachable, it's judgmental, and they go and shove aside. She says literally the word gidufim is shoves people away with their snobby attitude. That's the way that they do it, instead of analyzing why it is that they're so unpopular with the poorer and more, and more disadvantaged people in Israel, the Oriental and other Jews who are not like this guy.
אני חוזר רגע לנקודה. מי שמך, שאלה את זה אמירה בהתחלה, לתת ציונים? אני ככה מצטט, אתה יודע, וזה דברים שאתה כתבת. ספק יהודים, כל מיני יהודים, חצי יהודים, המילה סלקציה שהיא מילה איומה בהקשרים של יהודים, אבל כל אחד יבחר את המילים שהוא רוצה, וכולי וכולי. כמובן, עם ניחוח, אתה יודע, בורשט זה הרומנים, וחומוס זה המזרחים.
בורשט דווקא הרומנים, אבל לא משנה. בורשט זה רוסים, אבל אם כבר, אבל אני רוצה רגע אחד להמשיך.
So he asks him again, who puts you in charge of saying who are the better or the lesser Jews? When he started using all these words like selektia, which is, it's kind of a politically charged word. You can't not say it over there, but it has a charge because it's associated with the concentration camps. Who appointed you to decide who's the better or the lesser Jews? And then they go into the whole thing with the borscht. So let's keep going.
תודה רבה לך, באמת תודה רבה לך. אני לא צריך לקבל אישור ממך, גברת בוזגלו, עם כל הכבוד, וגם לא ממך, מר לימור. כל מה שאני באתי ואמרתי פה, וזה, שוב, אני חוזר ואומר על המילה הזאת.
שזו דעה לגיטימית.
שזו דעה לגיטימית.
ברור.
So he says, I don't need permission from either of you, whether it's you, Bezaglo, or you, the host, whatever his name was, to say what I think is a legitimate point of view. Again, he says, oh, this is a legitimate point of view. Again, showing how insecure he is.
שהיא באה ואומרת שמדיניות ההגירה של ישראל צריכה להיות מדיניות רציונלית שמתבססת על תרומה למדינה, מה יש לבן אדם לתת ולא עם...
So he's saying, what I'm trying to say is that the countries that are the sources of immigration to Israel should be the ones that are on the basis of rationalism, the rational liberal enlightenment. This is a leftist in Israel. Okay, and people who are willing to contribute to the country.
סבתא שלו נולדה יהודיה, זה כל מה שאמרתי, זה לא משהו שהוא נגד מזרחים.
אבל תנסה, הרי על מה הוקמה המדינה הזאת? המדינה הזאת הוקמה בשביל שיהודים מכל מקום בעולם יוכלו להגיע, ועדיין כשאתה רואה את כל האנטישמיות שיש בחול, נשים רגע את האש ואת מה שקורה בינינו בין מחנות בארץ, הרי יש כל כך הרבה אנטישמיות בחול, אתה אומר לאנשים, בואו, זאת המדינה שלנו, כאן הכי טוב לנו, מה צריך באמת לעשות סלקציה?
So she says, with all due respect, this country, meaning her country, Israel, was formed with the express purpose of being a destination point for Jewish people from around the world to flee to in order to escape from persecution in other countries. And instead, he's trying to slam the brakes on that and say, no, our standards should be, more towards people that can form the country that I want it to be. See, are you guys still talking about guns? Okay.
מה היה קורה אם היו עושים את זה לסבא וסבתא שלנו?
גברת גוטמן, אני לא יודע איך את תקבלי את זה.
לסבא וסבתא שלך.
גם הסבא וסבתא שלי עשו סלקציה, אבל אני רוצה להגיד, גברת גוטמן, אני לא יודע איך לבשר את זה, אבל זה שיש מישהו שסובל בקזחסטן, זו לא בהכרח הבעיה שלי. זו לא הבעיה.
So he says, the fact that somebody is suffering in Kazakhstan is not my problem. This is the left over there. He's saying because these people are coming in and they don't have any ties to me. He's basically saying that in his opinion, his Jewishness is not even any sort of tie to somebody and there are Jews in Kazakhstan, not that many, more in Uzbekistan. In fact, a few of my best friends here in the city are from Uzbekistan and they're Jewish. So he's saying, well, I have no ties to them. Why the hell would I care? So then she asks, why do you deserve to be here? And he says, I'll tell you why.
אני רוצה לענות לך, בא לי לענות לך, כי יש לי תשובה בשבילך. מכיוון שסבא שלי הגיע לפה בשנת 30 ומשהו, כשסבא שלך לא חשב לבוא לפה, הוא הגיע לפה, והוא שילם כסף בשביל להגיע לפה.
So he's saying, because my parents came here in the 30s, before your parents even thought about coming here, my grandparents came here in the 30s before your grandparents even thought about coming here, and they paid money to get here. That's his reason.
הוא השקיע פה הרבה יותר, ומה לעשות, מי שבא קודם תופס את החלקים היותר טובים, גם בארצות הברית.
And he says, this is hilarious, he's saying, what are you going to do? Whoever came first invested more, and whoever came first is entitled to more, and it's the same thing in the United States. So this is what the left says over there. Let's see here. Do you not get my text that... Oh, okay.
אנשים כמוך הם כל כך הזויים שקשה אפילו להתייחס אליהם, אבל אנשים כמוך וכמו גרבוז רק גורמים לציבור החלש שאין לו את הכוח להגיע לכאן ולדבר, ואולי לא למד כל כך הרבה תארים והוא לא במוקדי הכוח, כדי להצביע ברגליים ולהמשיך לתת לימין לעלות לשלטון.
And she says something, I mean it's true, it doesn't make it right or wrong, but it's this. what he says, and this is talking about Israel. It's not exactly the same as the United States. Okay, every country has a little difference of the way the political landscape works. But she's saying your attitude, the way that you express your attitudes about either whether it's race or whether it's religion or whether it's anything tradition, that is why it is because of you, people like you, this Amir Hetzroni, that the people who are more disadvantaged have less to, they have less opportunity in life. They haven't gotten as many degrees as you have. She says that. That's why they continue to vote with their legs and support the right wing.
ואתה בסופו של דבר פשיסט וגזען.
And then she calls him a fascist and a racist. And this is the funniest thing, because it's one leftist calling another leftist a racist and a fascist. But what are you going to do? He said a bunch of racist things. So, he's done. Yeah, you guys sound like you're going to put together a compound. I hope I'm invited. Just don't shoot me.
ואני לא גזען, למרות שאני חושב ששום דבר רע לא היה קורה אם ההורים שלך היו נשארים במרוקו.
Okay, it freezes for me, so let me put this back.
לעלות לשלטון, ואתה בסופו של דבר פשיסט וגזען ועלוב נפש.
He says, I'm not a racist and I'm not a fascist, but...
למרות שאני חושב ששום דבר רע לא היה קורה אם ההורים שלך היו נשארים במרוקו ונרכבים שם.
But I think nothing bad would have happened if your parents would have remained in Morocco and rotted to death. So that's his opinion. He's saying, nothing bad would have happened if your parents and grandparents would have remained in Morocco and rotted to death. And he's wondering, why is it that people don't? And I don't know what fascism. Perseus Gold. I'm not sure. I think you know something about fascism, but don't let me put words in your mouth. Look, what we're having here is an example of it. It doesn't have to do necessarily with racism or with fascism, but this is academia being disconnected from the way that people actually think. It's pathetic. It's extremely entitled thinking. And this woman who, let's not say that she's a genius, but she gets the whole problem, that this is the problem. This is why people who are poorer voters, like in Colombia yesterday, which, I'll probably do a little bit of a discussion later. That's why they reject leftist candidates. I don't know why it keeps making me do this. His bloodline put in the early work. Their genetic omen justified it. This is fascist politics 101. So I'm just going to ask you for clarification. Do you agree that this was a fascist opinion that he put forward? Don't feel shy. You can I'm just asking for clarification's sake. Jeffrey Allen Johnson, Hungarian conversions. Are you talking about guns or are you talking about people? He has gone Italian with the hand talking. I thought they said that's something about Jews. I think they say about both Italians and the Jews. Some people like to say that both Italians and Jews are like basically the same thing, but I don't know. Jeffrey says he sounds like a cunt no matter the language. This guy is literally using fascism 101 talking points. Okay, but you're saying seriously. You're not like trolling, because I want to get an honest opinion. Sislowski said, or Arjun says, the very same, also another name for Lord Shiva. Sina, one of my favorite books. Okay. Larry Noshik, same with my girls. I'm nervous as fuck. They left for a trip for 4 days to Dallas, Texas this morning. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Perseus Gold says it's textbook fascism. Okay, so we have an opinion from somebody. Perseus, you do claim, I think I saw you one time on Hard Bastard, you self-identify as a fascist. So I think, if I remember correctly, you do. And, there's the no judgment zone today. We're not saying, good or bad. We're just asking your opinion. And you would say that this is a fascist opinion. So let's just keep going.
אבל זה הכל,
איזה
וזה לא
יופי.
הופך אותי
פשיסט
לגזען.
כמוך, באמת.
לא, אני לא פשיסט,
לא,
אני
מה
בסך הכל
פתאום?
רוצה הגירה על בסיס רציונלי, ולא בא לי להגיד
ההבדל
אותך
בינך
עכשיו.
לבין
אבל
היטלר, אני לא...
He says, no, I'm not a fascist. I just want people to be immigrating on the basis of rationalism.
רואה אותו כרגע.
לא, אין הבדל ביני ובין היטלר.
ממש לא.
וואלה, זה דיבה עד הסוף.
לא, זה לא... זה...
So he's saying, she didn't say this. So he's saying that she called him Hitler. I didn't hear the word Hitler out of her mouth. And I've looked at this a couple times. So she didn't call him Hitler. She said that he has fascist views. And they could be, they could be construed to be fascist here. I'm not being Cenk Uygur here. I'm not saying, oh, this sounds fascist. Of course! But, these things could be construed as fascist. Some people in the chat are saying they could be construed as fascist.
זה דיבה. לך תתבע. אתה האיש שמתפרנס מפרובוקציות. אתה מדבר על לתבוע?
את אומרת שאני היטלר? את אומרת שאני יותר גרוע מהיטלר בשיטתך.
אני אומרת שאין הבדל בין דעות פשיסטיות וגזעניות כמו שלך.
אני לא פשיסט.
אתה מביך אותי ואת כל מי ששומע אותך כרגע.
ורגע אחד.
לדעתי, באמת...
He goes, I am not a fascist, period. Larry, that's not the word worry. They're armed. It's the fact. Oh. Whatever.
הדיון הסתיים. פעם ראשונה שאין לי מה להגיד לאיש.
קומי ולכי.
קום אתה ולך.
She says this discussion is over. This is the first time I've ever had nothing to say, and he says, "Oh, go and leave, leave right now."
אני מציע קצת להוריד את הטונים.
אפילו אין מה להתבטא פה.
כן, האמת היא.
So these two here in the middle, they're here like basically stunned, I guess, because remember now. This is Israel, but the Israeli media is also fairly left-wing. They often oppose Benjamin Netanyahu. And let me see here. I'll read that comment in a second, Perseus. But the thing is that they are stunned by what they heard because he represents, this is the way that a lot of the people who are from countries like Persia or from Morocco, they perceive the left. They're these whiter European Jews who think that they're more sophisticated and intelligent. And there's something to be said. There is an education gap between the two communities, but it's closing. There's more and more intermarriage. For example, my parents were, my dad was an Ashkenaz, and my mom was an Iraqi. So. What are you gonna? I mean, I more identify with the Iraqi side, but genetically, who's to say which one I am? So, this is a very bizarre discussion, and these people are stunned, and they just say it. They say, "Oh, we're ashamed of what's going on."
מישהי שיושבת מולך, שההורים שלה היו צריכים להמשיך ולהירקב.
ואני בגלל זה יותר גרוע מי...
And she's like, I can't believe you said to somebody that. Who's looking right across from you that you would be fine with her grandparents rotting in Morocco.
היטלר, בגלל שאני, ויש לי מדינה, הצעה מסוימת לגבי הגירה.
And then he says, oh, because of that, I'm basically Hitler. He brought up Hitler. She just said he's a fascist. Because those are kind of fascist opinions. Perseus says, none taken. I'm not fascist because I think it's great. I'm fascist because I'm a horrible pessimist and think being prepared and set up for total war as a society is the only rational outlook. Look, the idea of fascism is a little more sophisticated than people take it to be because there is an issue. Brazil, for example, up until the mid-50s had a fascist dictatorship. Portugal, until the mid-50s, had a fascist dictatorship. And it wasn't really, it wasn't really based exclusively on racial issues. In fact, Portugal had African colonies and whatever. I wouldn't say it was a society I would have formed. And in fact, because of the fascism in those countries, they failed to develop very adequately because their economies were left behind. So on a basis of performance, I would say I disagree with fascism because it's an inefficient economic model. Aside from all of the issues, people throw in the race issue and whatever. Jeffrey says, Steven Crowder does the best chunk yogurt. Yeah, it is great. So, well, according to Jews, you're not one from the maternal... What? What are you talking about? No, my mom is Iraqi Jewish. She was, her entire family was Jewish. They were living in Iraq from probably, 600 years before Christ. So yeah, no, we're 100% Jewish. It's just one half of it comes from Ukraine, the other half comes from Iraq. In fact, the Iraqi bloodline is probably more coherent than the Ukrainian one, because Iraq was a little bit of a freer society for many generations, to be religiously professing to be a minority, such as Jewish, not only. Now, in my opinion, Bold, I think you're a Jew. You wear your little skull cap. Yes, I do. I have it on right here. A second. Yeah, right there. But here the junta owns most everything, but farms it out to the private sector by concessions. So, John, do you live in Thailand? That's interesting. Yeah, people would say that some of these Asian countries, they operate according to fascist belief systems, and Thailand would be an excellent example, and Burma for a long time, or Myanmar, was an excellent example. So people miss the term fascism has become a loaded term, and I personally, it's difficult to have a discussion about it, and I think people have to get their emotions really checked about it. And she got him, basically to freak out by just calling him a fascist, because you didn't mention, So Jeff, there used to be a massive community of Jews in Iraq, and they're all gone. So they were kicked out in the 50s. That was my grandpa. Never recovered from it. He was a broken man. He didn't want to live anywhere else. He loved living in Iraq. Let's just watch the end of the clip, and we'll do a little question and answer. So put your questions in the chat, and I'll answer it. I'll try to answer them as fast as I can, because we're coming up on 1 hour. He says all of my degrees I got by right and not from you. All of my qualifications I got by right and not from you. And he says you can go suck my dick. Let me hear that again. She says, who put you in academia? Who put you back in academia? Because I think he lost one of his positions at one time. And he says, my degrees I got by my own right and not from you. And then he tells her to eat his dick.
תקשיב, אני 30 שנה עיתונאי. בחיים לא התביישתי כמו בערימה של ההבלים שיוצאת לך מהפה.
He says, I've been a journalist for 30 years, but I've never been more ashamed of the pile of abominations that have come out of your mouth.
בחיים לא, השיחה מבחינתי הסתיימה. אני מודה לך שבאת לפה, אין לי עניין להמשיך לראיין אותך, לפחות לי עם גלית.
He says, I'm happy you came here. I have no more interest in interviewing you at all.
רוצה להמשיך לדבר, זו זכותה. אני בחיים, אני אומר לך, לא התביישתי כך. אני חושב שאתה צריך להתנצל קודם כל בפני אמירה.
He says, what did he say? I think that you have to apologize to Amira, who's the other lady at the other end. And you have to apologize to the audience as well.
לפני הצופים, אתה אמרת דברים שלא מקובלים, לא בטלוויזיה, לא בתקשורת ובעיקר לא בין בני אדם. יש דבר...
He says, you have said things that are not acceptable, not on TV, not in the media, and not among mankind.
דברים שלא נאמרים, לא נעשים. אני אומר לך, אדם שלי רותח לו, הייתי קצת עובד פחות על שליטה עצמית, הייתי עונה לך.
He says, my blood is boiling, I'm really working on my self-control here.
ובמילים אני לא פחות טוב ממך, ובאמת, אבל אני אומר, יש לך...
He says, in a matter of, my use of words, I'm not less than you.
הזדמנות פה להתנצל. אתה לא רוצה לקחת את הרגליים, אתה מוזמן לצאת מהאולפן.
להתראות לך בבא.
תודה רבה.
He says, if you don't want to apologize, you're invited to leave.
לא, זה לא פרובוקציה, אנחנו סיימנו את האייטם. אמירה, תודה לך.
תודה לך.
תני לי רגע לנשום עמוק.
אני גם.
יפה.
כך עצוב שהגענו
כן.
לכאלה מקומות וכמה עבודה
לצערי, אמיר
יש.
בוזגלו, תודה
He
רבה.
says we have to take a deep breath. It's too bad we got to this level of discourse.
רבה על
לכנסת
הדברים
שלנו
האלה.
ולממשלה בשביל לאחד פה את
יפה.
העם, אותו עם
כן.
שהגיע מאותם סיפורים.
וואו. טוב.
So I want you guys to understand something, and then I'll go to questions if there are any. It's not there are issues between religious Jews and not religious Jews. There are issues between the Oriental Jews and the non or and the European Ashkenaz Jews and whatever. Those are issues that will never go away because people are different and people have different tastes and different opinions and people hate each other. And in spite of that, people intermarry. And there's also people who, they choose to remain within, they choose to, like, there are people who are, for example, Ukrainian who want to marry other Ukrainians or whatever. But I think that a more open society, somebody like this coming on Israeli TV, does it make the country feel more unified and better? No. Is it useful to have people like this having opinions out on the TV to illustrate problems in the society? Yes. And that's why, these people, they can pretend, oh, this is disgusting. This is something that I can't believe this happened on TV. This had to happen. This is how you illustrate the unhealthy issues that society is going through when you see people who are divided along, issues of race or class or education. And that's why, I believe in the First Amendment in my country. And when there are issues with First Amendment over in Israel, or not First Amendment, but freedom of speech, that actually keeps the tension simmering. However, there has to be more of a commitment to the free expression in that society, and I think that they're not all the way there over there. But I'm personally, I don't like it that people like this think that way, but I understand totally how it happened. You create this academic class that they look at this philosophy that they get from Western Europe, the philosophy of the Enlightenment, Immanuel Kant, the liberal philosophy, and more specifically, the type that leads to, the more progressive styles of Western philosophy, which includes Marx, by the way. It also includes other people before Marx, like Robert Owen, who was a Welsh socialist, who was before Marx. Those types of thinking, when you get too immersed in them, you lose touch with really what's the intention of creating a more fair society. If the intention is to eventually become so intellectually enlightened that you look at the very people that you seek to help as idiots, then there is no purpose to it. And let me see if there's anybody with any questions in the chat. So I see a couple from here. So Sislowski says Thailand is capitalistic, and that is why it is so advanced compared to the deep communist neighbors. They're reforming, and the lights are coming on, though. Yeah, and I think that there's been political violence in Thailand several times, and but it's still, compared to Cambodia, for example, it's doing pretty well. Compared also to Indonesia, which was not communist but went under a right-wing dictatorship, it's also doing relatively well. So at a certain point, you have to wonder, maybe we should just leave East Asia to deal with their own shit. Jeffrey Allen Johnson, or Perseus Gold, says fascism is a belief that life is an eternal struggle that is a zero-sum game, and that nation-states should operate in whichever way best allows its specific sustenance. To sustain total war or as long as possible at regular planned intervals. Bolds or Arjun says, yeah, but fascism is a left ideology. It's communism by another name. It's apt the woman calls him fascist. I think she called him fascist for a different reason, but it's a good question. What constitutes a fascist? The economic model, in my opinion, is not something I support. Larry, I simply was going off the info Bolt gave us. Okay. That's sad. My family left Poland between 1899 and 1950. My great-grandparents hated having to leave their homes. They only ever wanted to stay in their homeland. Yeah, there's a misconception that Israel was populated because Zionists forced people to come to their countries. Well, if that's the case, my grandparents would never have gone there because they never wanted to leave Iraq. They loved the country. They loved the Arabic language. Or at least my grandpa did. I can't speak for my grandmother. In fact, I never got to meet my grandpa because he died in 1975. But the fact is that he was more into the Arabic culture of Baghdad, which was much more developed. It was much more high society back in the 40s than we know of today, because we think of Baghdad as a bombed out capital, or under Saddam. It was a different society back in the 40s. And natural law should be followed. It asked letting the weak die, so on like that. But it was for the best. There are no more relatives. I don't see any questions here. Yeah, I think you guys don't have any questions. A lot of people hold fascist beliefs and don't know it because of the fact we aren't educated about what fascism actually is in our school systems. Look, the issue of what fascism is will continue to be, debated, because people have taken it to mean the issue of race and economics and whatever. But in reality, I look at it as a corporatist model of politics. You have, instead of having state ownership of the means of production, you kind of have a broader state control. So I look at it from the economic angle. I know that you're looking at it from a sociological viewpoint, Perseus Gold, which, you're free to come on one day and discuss that. But, I wouldn't support the system. I also don't look, when they use it as an epithet, the way that this person did, and she attacked him saying, "Oh, you're a fascist," or whatever. And he freaked out because he's like so insecure because of the way that it's taken to be. So in the popular meaning, it's she's kind of accurate, because fascism in many societies is taken to be a very rationalist look at race, in terms of that the weaker peoples should be eradicated or should be neglected, or you don't have to care about them, which is it's debatable again whether that's really what fascism is. In fact, Arjun once told me that Obamacare is fascist because of the economic model, and I have to agree with him. So Jeffrey says, Perseus, I'm not fascist. I'm just a dick. Natural selection. I believe all drugs should be legal. Take warning labels off everything. It will weed out the dumb quickly. Sislowski says, I want to know why this topic of discussion is being fueled in Israel. Look, this happened, to be fair, this isn't something that happened today. This happened in 2015, for those of you that missed the beginning. So this was after the election. And the reason that this is being fueled is because there's a perception among there's a perception among the left in Israel that the Oriental Jews, the Mizrahis, are too dumb to look after their own interests. It's the same way Democrats look at minorities there, or look at not minorities, but the rural poor. They look at rednecks. So they look at the Oriental Jews from Morocco or Iran, or countries like that. They look at them basically as rednecks. They're saying you're voting against your own interests. Well, that's a form of voter shaming, and I don't abide by it. I don't even I hate Bernie Sanders, but I'll tell people, as much as I beat up on him, if you want to vote for somebody, even Bernie Sanders, you have the right to vote for whoever the fuck you want. It doesn't make you right. It doesn't make you wrong. But this guy is voter shaming, and he's saying that the problem isn't the fact that the left is, they don't have a real position and they don't have a compelling platform or anything over there. the reason that we're losing is because there's too many of these ignorant immigrants from Morocco and from Iran or whatever. And it's a little bit of a spin on what we have over here, because over here the left is pro-immigration, right? So you can see here that when the left loses touch, it doesn't matter whether immigration is the issue or whatever. They'll always blame the voters. Everything is fueled in Israel. Let Mexicans line up at our border causing havoc as the Palestinians are. It would be target practice for Americans. Perseus says the corporate model using fascism is used because it is simply the best model that selective pressures have produced in our economic environment. Thus far, technological revolution could change this. Okay, I think I'm going to stop this stream, and you guys can leave the comments in the chat, or more properly in the you can comment after this uploads. But I do want to say I'm glad people engaged here. I'm glad people asked a few questions. There's a lot. This was a very unclear topic, to be fair, and I wish that there was a subtitled stream video to talk about. But you can email me, like I said. My email for the channel is again chefleopard at YouTube, or no, chefleopardyoutube@gmail.com. And just send me your ideas, or your comments or whatever. But also comment on the actual video, because and please share it, like it, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys later.